In mechanical systems, if a part doesn't fit the housing, you have to shave away the material until the friction stops. You force the component to fit by permanently altering its structure. We adopt this same behavior in our social lives. We function as relational shock absorbers, grinding down our own needs and edges to accommodate everyone else's requirements. Often, we do this for accidental, proximity-based relationships, connections formed by nothing more than a shared office or a childhood neighborhood. When we spend years eroding our own edges to fit into these accidental structures, our nervous systems begin to mistake familiar chaos and interpersonal pain for genuine loyalty. This self-shaving process has a chemical and psychological byproduct: secret resentment. It is the silent buildup of frustration that occurs when you realize you've sacrificed your own structure to absorb someone else's friction. In a leadership context, this dynamic is a liability. Teams view their leaders as attachment figures, the primary individuals responsible for providing psychological security and a stable home base within a high-pressure environment. If your internal state is a mess of suppressed resentment and unregulated stress, you cannot provide that security. Your emotional chaos dictates the psychological safety of those around you, causing the entire team's performance to degrade. Emotional intelligence is the operational mechanism for establishing that security. It is a structural requirement for any team. If the leader's internal regulation breaks, the external organization will eventually collapse. To move past accidental relationships, we have to start building a social circle based on deliberate engineering. We do this by applying the 5 pillars of relational architecture. This blueprint shows the 5 distinct pillars required to support any high-stakes connection: trust, respect, communication, boundaries, and growth. Maintaining these pillars requires a specific internal operating system called Relational Self-Awareness, or RSA. RSA is the mechanical practice of taking a curious, objective stance toward your own emotional triggers. By identifying your stress signals before you act on them, you stop internal pressure from bleeding into your external partnerships. The primary tool for executing RSA is the ladder of inference. This ladder helps visualize how the mind moves from observation to a complex, incorrect conclusion. By stepping down the rungs, you replace emotionally driven assumptions with clarifying questions, replacing cognitive bias with objective data. Using RSA and the ladder of inference changes the nature of interpersonal conflict. You are no longer reacting to a feeling, you are managing actionable data points. Of the 5 pillars, boundaries are the most misunderstood. They are often the first thing to fail when a leader prioritizes short-term over long-term stability. Most people view a boundary as an act of rejection or an attempt to push others away. In practice, a boundary is a functional bridge. It clarifies the exact terms of connection required to keep a relationship healthy, removing secret resentment. We implement these boundaries through a technique called clean delivery. Clean delivery means stating your limits clearly and directly. It requires you to state the boundary without attaching any apologies, excuses, or negotiations to soften the message. While boundaries protect your space, the vending machine analogy helps you manage how you support others during a conflict. In this model, you wait for a specific input from the other person before providing support. Instead of dispensing unwanted advice, you provide a matching output that addresses their actual request. By saying clear boundaries and provided measured, requested support, you create a secure environment where friction is resolved through structure rather than through emotional outbursts. By learning to set boundaries and use the ladder of inference, you have effectively created a filter for your environment. Those who cannot respect your architecture naturally fall away, leaving you with a circle of people who support your potential. This represents the core shift of this stage, taking the internal locus of control, your belief in your own agency, and projecting it fully into your relationships. You are now the architect of your social environment. Reaching this 21-day mark is a significant milestone in your development. You have spent 3 weeks remodeling your psychological architecture and your identity. This internal stability provides the necessary foundation for advanced leadership. You cannot voice a confident presence if the underlying architecture is still based on people-pleasing or resentment. With the foundation secured, the next phase is to focus on articulate expression. In the coming week, we will introduce specific framing and storytelling tools. These will allow you to voice your identity and navigate complex dialogues with executive presence. True executive presence is not a performance. It is the direct result of a meticulously engineered internal architecture.